The Reds are not asking themselves the right question when it comes to these Hunter Greene trade rumors.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. And thank you very, very much for helping make that happen. As always, we are your team each and every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball. And we especially love talking about those things with you right here on Locked On Reds. We have a combined 14 years of experience talking about this team in podcast form. And on today's show, we're going to get into the Reds adding yet another catcher a little bit later on this episode and ask the question that I think is on everybody's mind. Are they possibly shopping a catcher or two this offseason in order to bring in something else? We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. We're also going to talk about the fact that the Reds are actually having conversations with some of the top relief pitchers on the market. That is great news. That is exactly what we want to hear. We're going to talk about that here coming up in just a few minutes. But where we are going to start is with, once again, the Hunter Greene rumors are front and center. And Jeff doesn't think the Reds are asking the right questions about these Hunter Greene rumors, or at least they're not answering the right questions. We're going to get into that on today's show that's brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets back to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. And Jeff, let's just jump right into this. There has been so much rumor and speculation and talk about these Hunter Greene rumors. This all goes back to one question Mark Sheldon asked Nick Krall, and the answer wasn't an emphatic no about a trade. It was a GM speak answer. This really fueled this fire. But the more that it's been talked about, the more people have looked at it, the more you can see lanes where it might make sense, but you can also see a lot of lanes where it doesn't make sense. And it has you wondering about the answers we're getting from the Reds.
Yeah, because they have not said no. And Nick Krall said a quote. He said, but right now that's not on the table, referring to a possible Hunter Greene trade.
Right now,
still implies that it could be on the table at some point.
It could be on the table tomorrow.
Future.
It's not on the table right now. It could be on the table tomorrow.
He's not shutting it down. And the reason that I don't think that they are answering the right questions or asking the right questions or even looking at the right question is the fact that they have beaten us over the head with draft, develop, and retain from within. We build from within. Hunter Greene represents everything that they have preached. Hunter Greene is the quintessential draft, develop, keep. They drafted him, they developed him, and they signed him to a nice long-term deal. We're talking about the kind of contract, Steve, that, for years and years, you and I and many of other fans around the league who are not Braves fans looked at the Braves and said, how on earth did you sign Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies to those contracts? This is that type of deal, because by the end of his contract, Hunter Greene's going to be making like $15 million in a season. And by that point, he should be well past that as far as the value that he's provided the team on the field. And so you have to ask all of this, as much as we've talked about, okay, you could possibly build this trade or that trade, or this trade could look good or something like that. How does this not fly in the face of the narrative that they have sold us since we have decided that we were Reds fans?
Well, it does fly in the face, not only on that piece of it, but the other piece of it is that Nick Krall looked into a camera and said, we're going to try and implement a lot of what the Rays do. We're going to follow that Tampa model. We're going to trade players. We're going to churn this roster. We're going to bring in new prospects. And if they're going to truly emulate the Rays, when you get a guy down to 2 years of team control, you start talking about what you're going to do with him. Are you going to get an extension, or are you going to trade him? And we're going to talk about that coming up a little bit later in the show with Tyler Stephenson. But Hunter Greene has 4 years of team control remaining. We're nowhere near that trade window yet. So I continue to fall back on this, Jeff. There is some reason that Mark Sheldon asked that specific question. And I would love to be a fly on the wall and just know what it is that prompted Mark Sheldon to ask that question, because that was not a he was guessing. That was not a let me see if I can stir something up. He heard something to ask the specific question about Hunter Greene.
Do you think it was because Hunter said he prefers the chicken chili over the beef chili? Because I definitely don't. The beef chili is better at Skyline.
I mean, clearly they should have just waived him, right?
Yeah, because I don't know. The chicken chili is fine, but the beef chili is better in my opinion. But no,
it always comes down to food with you. Why is it always food with? Why are we always talking about food?
I'm hungry right now. But when it comes to like the possibilities of what it could be, it always goes back to when it's sports, when it's athletes, it always goes back to two things: physical shape and the work ethic, right? And that's something that people love to.
This is a Mavericks thing, right? You're going towards
Dallas Mavericks. We're going right back to this. Well, we're going right back to Luka Doncic, because that's exactly what they said whenever the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. And where is the guy who traded him now? He's not employed by the Dallas Mavericks.
He's GMing as many games as you and I are right now.
Exactly. And so I think that it's things like that when they come out and they're like, well, this is the reason and blah, 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 blah. I don't buy it. And he is just dominating Luka Doncic for the Los Angeles Lakers. And we know the moment that you trade Hunter Greene to Team X, I don't care who it is, any other team in the league, he's going to go win a Cy Young. Because honestly, he could go win a Cy Young next year for the Reds, because he's that good of a pitcher. And as long as he stays healthy and he pitches enough, he can put together the type of resume that would win that award. So I think it's hilarious that they haven't come out and just said no. And I get it. We talked about this before, where we're like, smart GMs do not shut down trades that could help their team in some way. And that was kind of the whole quote here, the entire quote with all of the context, where Nick Krall was asked about the possibility of trading Hunter Greene at the GM meetings this past week. He said, quote, look, we're going to try to do what's best for our team. I don't want to rule out anything. But that's a hard one to actually say, hey, we're going to trade a guy who has a chance to be the ace of our staff and a top of the rotation guy going into the postseason. So I'd say that we're looking to figure out how to get better. But right now, that's, referring to the trade of Hunter Greene, not on the table. Just say no, Nick. Just say no. He's not available.
Well, I think that would go a long way in keeping Hunter Greene happy if he just said no. But that was very two sides of his mouth GM speaky there. We're trying to get better. We're looking for all the deals.
We're not
boy,
trading.
It'd be hard to trade the ace. And that's not an option that's on the table right now. So maybe tomorrow, maybe at the winter meetings, maybe that's an option that's on the table at the winter meetings. We just don't know. I find it really interesting that he hasn't shut this down. And again, all this prompted by a Reds beat writer asking the specific question. That all of these pieces say they're having conversations with somebody about Hunter Greene. I don't believe that they're not. I don't believe it. Mark Sheldon doesn't ask that question. Nick Krall doesn't just give you a flat no if they're not talking to somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're having a conversation. Somebody has had a conversation with somebody about trading Hunter Greene.
I would definitely say, because who was it? It was Bob Nightingale. So one of the national guys said that the Reds are listening to Hunter Greene ideas. But at the same time, it's like, honestly, I would almost just say, no, we're not even listening at this point, because he is everything that the Reds have preached since I can remember donning a Reds jersey, since I put on the Sean Casey T-jersey, and I probably had something before that, if I think about it, but I'm bigger than I used to be. But since I donned that T-jersey of Sean Casey, I've heard draft develop from within. That's how we build a team. That's who Hunter Greene is. Why are we looking to trade him so quickly?
You're absolutely right. With that being said,
Yeah.
They're looking to trade Hunter Greene, Jeff, but maybe they're talking to the right pitchers about rebuilding this bullpen. There is some speculation that the Reds are linked with a lot of other teams and talking to some of the top relievers on the market. We're going to tell you who, and we're going to talk about that coming up next.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks and so many different things in between. I love to pick my favorite players and put together parlays, whether it be the points scored, the assists, the rebounds, all of the above. Quite frankly, if you're putting anything on Victor Wembanyama, you can pretty much pick everything with Victor Wembanyama. He's going crazy for the Spurs right now. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can enjoy the action, even when it comes to the NFL and college football and college basketball as well. So many different ways to have fun over on FanDuel. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Reds your first listen today and every day. And we also want to thank you for helping us make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. It feels great. I appreciate. I've been hosting this podcast since 2019. And Steve's been with me for about half as long as that. And we've been talking about the Reds for a long time. And we're going to keep doing it every single day here. Make sure you subscribe. Become an everydayer. Shout out to our everydayers out there. You guys and gals are awesome. All right, Steve, there was a great little rumor that came out, and this was from Will Salmon of The Athletic. He writes about Major League Baseball and specifically about the Mets, but also covers the league at large for The Athletic. And he was talking about Devin Williams, the fact that the Yankees closer from last year, who had an interesting season, albeit, but one of the most elite closers in the game for the last decade or so, he's on the free agent market, and the Reds are one of 12 teams that have interest in him. Now, that's one of 12. That's not exactly like the best odds, but this tells me that the Reds have the right sights when it comes to, hey, we need to rebuild our bullpen, and we're not just fine with the status quo. We're going to see if we can go get us an elite guy to lead this group.
Yeah, you look at Devin Williams. This is exactly the guy that they should be talking to. This signing would be the immediate addition of a closer. He would be the closer for the Reds right out of the gate. Probably might even be a little bit of a press conference signing, maybe just a little get together down there at GABP with the media guys. You look at his body of work over his career. In 7 big league seasons, Jeff, a 2.45 ERA. His walk rate's higher than I like. He has a career walk rate in those 7 seasons of 4.1, but the strikeouts strikeouts per 9, 14.1. I'll take that all season long. And I know you were looking at his peripheral numbers. You were looking at other numbers for last season. If you just log on to Baseball Reference and you look at what he did for the Yankees last year, you're like, oh my God, this is a 4.79 ERA. But that does not paint the picture of what he was able to do in the big leagues last year.
Like I don't ask a lot. I ask for, good food here, good drinks every so often. But this offseason, please, dear God, Reds country, stop just evaluating pitchers based on ERA, especially relief pitchers, because there's so much more to it. And Devin Williams is all about that because, the peripherals look amazing. He is in the top 1% of Major League Baseball at whiff rate. Opposing hitters swing and miss at 37.7% of his pitches. The number of pitches that he has thrown, which at least according to Baseball Savant was 1,115 in the year 2025. 37.7% of those guys just swung and missed at him because he's got that air bender, the changeup that's been given a name by Pitching Ninja and a bunch of different guys that covers that cover, Major League Baseball, but they've named Devin Williams changeup. We're talking about a dude that's got otherworldly stuff, and he's just a fastball changeup guy. He's not a fastball slider guy. He's not a fastball curveball guy. Fastball changeup guy. Old school when it comes to the pitching mix, and he does it so well because through his career, you mentioned the fact that for his career, he has a crazy strikeout rate. Think about this, Steve. His second year in the league, top 7% of the league. Or I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong. Second year in the league, top 1% of baseball in strikeout rate. Third year in the league, top 2%. Fourth year in the league, top 1%. Fifth year in the league, top 1%. You see a pattern here? This guy really strikes out a lot of people. And I think that when it comes to Devin Williams, it's not just the Devin Williams of it all. It's the fact that the Reds are contacting the top guys on the free agent market. They're not going and starting their offseason with the retreads and the old guys and the guys who closed and maybe saved ball games, back in like the Bush 2 era or something like that. They're talking to guys who are elite right now. And I think that in and of itself is encouraging.
Yeah, you talk about his strikeouts per nine, and I don't like to count 2020, and that's his second year in the league was actually the 2020 COVID season, where he had a strikeout per nine of 17.7. But let's throw that out.
That high.
Cool. Let's throw that out. You want to know what his numbers look like after that? The rest of his big league seasons after that, Jeff, 14.5, 14.2, 13.3, 15.8, and last season 13.1 to go along with 18 saves for the New York Yankees. This is exactly where the conversation for upgrading this bullpen should start. It's this type of pitcher. It's not the retread. It's not the reclamation project. It's not let's see if Derek Johnson can work some magic. It's go out and get a bona fide guy that knows how to get big league hitters out. This is a pitcher that can do that.
Yeah, too many times it feels like we hear reports of the Reds signing, some Frankenstein pitcher that just had his arm reattached. And we're like, well, but Derek Johnson, let me tell you, just give him somebody that's like Devin Williams, will you? And see what he can work with. Give Terry Francona somebody like Devin Williams, because it felt like for most of the season, albeit we belabor the fact that he went to Ian Gibaut on opening day, but for most of the season, he made the right calls out of the bullpen, and he was able to utilize the guys that he had in the right spot. And you tell me, Steve, that if Devin Williams is in this bullpen, he's not going to anybody else on opening day.
No, and Devin Williams paired with Tony Santillan would be quite the 1-2 punch down there in the Reds bullpen in 2026. That would be a pretty nice 1-2 punch.
That would be fantastic. I really think it's interesting, though, the fact that this is the first rumor. It's not that they're talking to this, that, or the other, like some guy that everybody's got to squint really hard to see who they are. Like they're looking at Devin Williams, and you could talk about the fact that you're not going to like this, but they could look at, bringing Raisel Iglesias back, but that's not even this good. Like you're still talking about, like, are they going to go talk to Edwin Diaz? Maybe not, but after talking to Devin Williams, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you go talk to Edwin Diaz? Why wouldn't you go talk to Kenley Jansen? Why wouldn't you go talk to Robert Suarez from San Diego, coming out of San Diego? He's one of the best closers in the league last year. Like the other really corny part that I'm thinking about this is, Steve, when you shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars. So if you don't get Devin Williams, maybe you get like that next level guy that's still an upgrade from what the Reds have had these past few years.
No, I'm with you. Talk to all those dudes. There may be some family dynamics that Edwin Diaz might not be interested in coming to Cincinnati with, but beyond that, yeah, talk to them all. And I think that's a big component of what's been missing with this team for a while now, Jeff, is, you miss 100% of the opportunities you don't go after, right? There's some saying that something.
That was the Michael Scott's quote of Wayne Gretzky. That's what it was.
That's what it was. Am I quoting The Office on accident? Is that what's happening?
Well, not really. You're quoting Wayne Gretzky. He said it. It's
okay.
Just Michael Scott.
I would much rather be quoting Wayne Gretzky. Anyway. But they haven't been having these conversations. They haven't been making serious runs at top flight talent. And right. this is good to hear that they're in the mix right out of the gate on a really good relief pitcher, because that's what this bullpen needs. And, does that mean it limits the options in the outfield? It might, but this bullpen has got to get some good arms. They cannot just simply look for bubblegum and Band-Aids for this bullpen, given what it's lost from last year to this year, and hope that they're going to go out there and be able to compete like they did last season. They've got to go get a top flight arm. This is a top flight arm. And I'm really happy to hear that Nick Krall is having these conversations.
Well, that was a rumored addition. There was a bona fide addition that the Reds made. They claimed a catcher off waivers, and now by my count, they have like something between 15 and 94 catchers on the 40-man roster. So what gives? Could somebody be on the trade block? And is that Tyler Stephenson?
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can check us out on pretty much every single podcasting app that is out there. We're on them all. If you find one we're not on and you need us to be on it, message Jeff on the social media. He can probably make it happen for you. You can take us everywhere you go. Take us to the gym, take us in the car, take us to work. We would love to talk Reds baseball with you wherever you are. All right, Jeff, I don't like this topic. I'm not super happy about it, but it makes sense to have it. The Reds, yet again, have added a catcher to the 40-man roster. They claimed a guy off of waivers. The catching room is filling up, but it makes you wonder, given where Tyler Stephenson is in his contract and his control years, given how he pretty much laughed them out of the room when they tried to sign him to an extension, you have to think that Tyler Stephenson is in prime, it's time to trade him window. Now, I've said on shows already this offseason, Jeff, that the one guy on this roster that I would be okay with the Reds just riding out their team control and letting him walk into free agency and getting nothing for him is Tyler Stephenson, because there is nothing in the system that's ready to come take over the catching position. Nobody's close to being ready yet, at least not for the next couple years. But it would make sense if they're having conversations about Tyler Stephenson right now.
Yeah, and shouts to everydayer Adrian Delange. Sorry if I messed up your last name there, Adrian. But he actually asked me about this on Twitter X. And he had said, he's just like, man, it feels weird that they're claiming another catcher unless they're looking to trade Tyler Stephenson. And immediately I poo-pooed it. But you have this insurance now, because Ben Rortvedt did play some in the major leagues last year. It's not as if we're talking about a guy that's never played Major League Baseball. So you get a little bit of experience that you could say, yeah, he could back up Jose Trevino. And if that's what we're talking about, then it's out there. But at the same time, like, I still think that there's a better chance than not that this is just one of those early offseason additions that you add him to the 40-man roster. You add that veteran experience. He goes into spring training. He doesn't make the opening day roster. And then he just kind of elects free agency and they go their separate ways. Like, there's a lot of those moves that happen in November. And I always think quintessentially, like back, like, was it 2020, before they started their shopping spree, before the whole 2020 mess, one of the first additions that they had was Travis Jankowski. I mean, I think we all remember the impact that Travis Jankowski had on this roster. But no, Steve, like, there's,
you still have that jersey, don't you? You still have his jersy in your closet there?
Game used jersey. He's a smaller size than me, though, so I don't really wear it. But no, it could be just one of those early season moves. The other part about this, though, is they added another man to the 40-man, where they're coming up now on 5 days where they've got to make their decisions on who they are going to protect from the Rule 5 draft. There are a couple of guys that are shoo-ins on that. We're going to break that down more on tomorrow's podcast. But at the same time, it does add another player on the 40-man for them to think of, okay, are we cutting somebody else? Are we looking to trade somebody? I'm with you. I think that it'd be fine if they just go through this season with Tyler Stephenson, not only for the, if you just lose him, then whatever, but there could be one of two things happen. Number one, he goes crazy, has a breakout. You give him the qualifying offer, he turns it down, goes to free agency, you get a draft pick. Or he has another year, and then maybe you're able to sign him on a little bit more of a long-term contract. Or if you want to at that point. Like, there's a lot of things that could happen that you don't necessarily have to trade him right now. It's just that whole raise model thing that we're talking about would, say that the Reds would be looking to do that right now.
And this particular position is a hard position to really fortune tell, because you just don't know. It's much more complicated than can the guy hit. It's can the guy hit? Can the guy manage the pitching staff? How is he defensively? How is he at framing? How is he at throwing out runners? It's all of these pieces when you're talking about a catcher. And then you have to look with an eye towards February, an eye towards Goodyear, where you need 100 catchers. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you need a lot of catchers.
You
need
do
a
need
lot
a
of catchers.
yeah.
When pitchers and catchers report, you need a lot of dudes that can catch down there. So you just don't know. But timing wise, it makes sense to at least have this Tyler Stephenson conversation. And I am not persuaded to change my opinion, Jeff. I still feel like the best thing the Reds can do is just hold on to Tyler Stephenson until his control runs out. And then hopefully, Alfredo Duno will be ready by then. But in the meantime, it's at least worthy of having the conversations, I guess.
And I think too, the other, the pushback would be, well, how much could you save if you traded him for prospects or something like that on the roster? You could save $7 million, but I don't think that saving that money and repurposing it elsewhere is worth opening up the hole that it would open up, because it would open up a whole catcher. Like, Jose Trevino is fine, but he got exposed with everyday playing time as the season went along. And Tyler Stephenson dealt with this injury or that injury. So I think that you're right. Like, just go through this year with him. Don't worry about it. Because the other part of this is that durability factor. And what does that mean for him on any sort of trade negotiation? Like, our opposing GM's just looking at it and saying, look, he's not been the picture of durability behind the plate. I don't know how heavy we're going to load up this trade offer that you had. And you asked me too, like, could you flip this around? I'll flip the question on you. Could you flip this around, make Tyler Stephenson part of a deal to get a bona fide outfielder? And I don't necessarily know that teams are jumping at that right
now. No, because what I asked you was, what Tyler Stephenson plus what to get an outfielder? And you were like, well, which outfielder? And I'm like, no, the outfielder, to go get the outfielder that we've been asking for. Does Tyler Stephenson and Chase Petty get it done? You hemmed and hawed a little bit and basically landed on, well, I do it, so it probably is going to take more than that. I think it's absolutely going to take more than that. I don't think Chase Petty gets it done. I think you're talking about Tyler Stephenson, Chase Petty, and something else. Are we talking about Edwin Arroyo? Are we talking about another pitching prospect further down? Who are we looking at? But it would take a much broader, bigger package for that to be the outfielder that we're looking for, Jeff. But I just don't see that. I don't see that package is going to be it. The one guy, Tyler Stephenson really wants to have a big year. He needs to have a big year. This is the year he needs to be able to play those 130 games. He told us, right here on this show, he told us 130 games he felt like he could catch realistically in a season. We need to see that from him. He needs to see that from him for his career standpoint to go get that contract that he's chasing. So, here's hoping he plays 130 games behind the plate, hits 25 or 30 home runs, maybe even 40, who knows, and really gets it done for himself and gets it done for the Reds. And we can all celebrate Tyler Stephenson, but it doesn't change the fact that the Reds' control of Tyler Stephenson is getting short. And if Nick Krall is true to his word, and he has been thus far with how he said he was going to run this franchise, then they are going to start having conversations about Tyler Stephenson.
The other thing, and I'll drop this nugget here, this will be something that we really expound on a little bit later on in the offseason, but when we look at 2026 for Tyler Stephenson, even if it's not in a Reds uniform, this is the most important year of his career, because he could be playing himself into a massive contract, or he could be playing himself into one of those things where he's got to go prove it somewhere. And I don't know if a bad year immediately guarantees that he stays here. That's going to be an interesting thing. Like, there's a lot that goes into this season for Tyler Stephenson, and it is at least a little bit like antennas up just slightly with the Reds claiming a major league catcher off of waivers, not a minor league deal with invite to spring training, but a guy who's on the 40-man roster today. They now seem to have a lot of depth on the 40-man roster there, or, perceived depth at that catcher position. But I know this, Steve. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk a little bit more about that 40-man roster, some key prospects that are absolutely getting saved from the Rule 5 draft. But what does that mean now that you've added another guy? I think there's only 2 spots left. We're going to really dive deep onto that and talk more about some of the rumors that we've got going on this offseason on the next Locked On Reds podcast. So make sure you join us because we appreciate you making us your first listen every day and helping us make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Make sure now you go check out Locked On MLB. Sully's got you covered. Had a really great conversation about the managers of the year and why it's such a disservice that the teams that they play for continue to not really invest a whole lot in the roster. He's got a lot of great stuff like that and more over on Locked On MLB. So make sure you go check out Sully right now. But as for Steve and myself, that'll do it for us. Make sure you check us out tomorrow because we will be talking Reds every single day.
I need a snack now. You keep talking about food all the time. I'm hungry.
Go get me something good. Maybe some Skyline.